come on board?
Well, it's interesting as you step back and look at this. If you and I decided we were going to send $10,000 to California today, the fastest way for us to do it would be to drive to the airport and fly it there. That's a crazy thing to think about when you're in the age of the internet and we're used to information on demand. When we think about the customers that have come on board, it's because we're solving that real problem. We're changing the nature of a payment taking days to settle to California to seconds. So we now have well over 100 customers ranging from some of the biggest banks in the world to payment providers to the Western Unions and MoneyGrams, Linlan Pay out of China.
How many banks?
It's over 100. I actually don't know the exact number now. Last time we announced it publicly, we said over 100. We'll probably announce the next one when we get to over 200. We're signing up more than a bank a week now.
The thing is, it's not the number of banks. It's the volume
for sure
out there. What kind of volume are you looking at?
Well, we've had one that we could talk publicly about is we have one corridor run by SEB, which is one of the first or second largest bank in Sweden, has done over $1 billion USD equivalent through one corridor. So while on the global macro scale, we're still just getting started. I think we're on mile 1 of a marathon, but we've crossed that starting line. Like, this is real activity in production systems where customers are really benefiting from that. We clearly have a long way to go, and the overall maturity of the digital asset market, I think, has a long way to go. But if we keep going back to let's focus on a real problem and solve a real problem for real customers, I'm really optimistic.
You have several products. We talked about the system, RippleNet. You also have a digital token, which is the XRP. How is the XRP doing? Because we saw it surge 1,300%.
Right. So XRP actually was the best performing digital asset in 2017. It was up, I think, something like 25,000%. The excitement around digital assets is because I think you're solving a real problem. And I think one of the things you saw happen, particularly last December, is there's understandably concern about regulation and what does that mean for digital assets. From the get-go, Ripple has worked with regulators, and we have worked with regulated institutions like banks where there isn't regulatory uncertainty. And so we have found that part of the reason why XRP has performed well is because people realize, hey, wait a minute, back
a way to fix this system without blowing the system up, without the system collapsing chaotically, which would be bad for everybody, it's remarkably simple, actually. It's mechanically simple. It's politically very difficult. And that is, you have to price commodities, and in particular energy, in the SDR currencies. And then you have to settle any imbalances in a neutral reserve asset. And so basically, instead of having oil only priced in dollars, US can buy it in dollars, China can buy it in yuan, the Japanese can buy it in yen, the Europeans can buy it in euro, so on and so forth. And then basically what this does is it removes it's basically the Bancor system that was the other system proposed at Bretton Woods. It's the system the Chinese have been trying to propose since 2009. PBOC's Zhao in March of 2009, right after we did the big QE, said, listen, we need to move to a neutral settlement asset. And so for me, where the system I think is going, particularly as it relates to energy, is the dollar's not losing its usage. It's not going to be replaced with yuan, but you're already seeing and have been seeing for the last 7 years, central banks have stopped storing treasuries. They have been storing gold instead. And so would I take yuan? I would take yuan, yes. And I would immediately flip that into gold and hold that in gold, because that is it's coming back into the system as the reserve.
UBI, Universal Basic Income, how would it work? How would you actually distribute the money? Because many people have been saying maybe electronic digital wallets could be the answer to this, but many people don't. Some of the poorest people in society who need it the most don't have access to banks or indeed at the same time the internet even.
That's a very good point, because what we're saying here with testing, not just testing some of this, but making it happen, it has to go hand in hand with what is today probably one of the greatest drivers of a new inequality, which is access to the internet. We've seen now that the pandemic has really pushed us into a virtual world, and those that do not have access, digital means, whether it's to access cash, to access education, new skills, are getting far left behind. So you're seeing a digital gap that's really growing, worryingly so. If I look at in our region, a country like, let's say, the Republic of Korea, over 90% have access to the internet. Then I look not that far away, let's say at Timor-Leste, and it's just over 3% of people have access to the internet. So for UNDP, a big push is to see if this can be supported as a public good, because there's a big difference between the inefficiencies of trying to provide something like a temporary basic income through old cash transfer means and doing it digitally. It's interesting, the UN Secretary General's report just came out on digital finance, and this was co-chaired by the head of UNDP, and one of the findings was that in public accounts, a government transaction, you can save about 40% per transaction. Just think of the efficiency gains in going through digital finance and hence digital wallets. So we've been experimenting with this, including in the Philippines and in other places.
There's also a big element to this. Now, we all know Ripple is, created RippleNet and ODL, which was known as XRP before. People got to bear in mind, Ripple just didn't build this on their own. This was built with the banks, yeah? So they've been advised how they want this to work, yeah? They've been chucking money at Ripple, investing in them. Ripple did not create this and go, right, this is the product, test it, and plug it in and use it. It's not how it works, yeah? It simply isn't. It's a new piece of software that was created, and the banks have to test it, and they will then give their feedback to Ripple and say, look, we like this, but we don't like this. We needed to do this, we needed to do that, and so on. And so it keeps building out. So like we saw the new home system that was created. I'm sure that came from the advice from the banks saying, we would like this. This would save us time with the legal department, the compliance department, all the various departments, yeah, so that they can, when they want to link up to another bank to use ODL, all the correct things are in place, so they can just click, yes, let's start trading with each other.
What the OCC has been doing in the charter space. You recently mentioned the OCC was thinking about issuing a national bank charter for payments companies. Already, BPI has a real-time payments project. The Federal Reserve has promised the FedNow real-time system by 2024. You have companies like Stripe, Square, and PayPal that are seemingly capable of providing similar services. So how does the OCC's charter fit into that space?
Well, let's unpack a couple of things you've said, Rachel. So the Fed is working on a project that will be ready in 2024. Let's just pause on that for a moment. 2024. Today is 2020. The United Kingdom already has a real-time payment system in 2020. And America, the leader of the financial services world, will have it in 2024. I think that's unacceptable from a competitive standpoint, right? This country is a leader in two industries in the world at the moment, financial services and technology. The idea that we're going to allow Singapore, China, the UK, and the EU to leapfrog us in terms of faster payments, much the way that other countries got 5G telecommunications long before we're ever going to have that, should give us pause. It should really give us pause. And so the question I have is, when real-time payments technology is available today, in the form of private blockchains that already exist and are transacting $350 or $400 billion of market cap every day, I guess I ask myself, why do we want to wait for those things? So, you mentioned some of these bank-owned payment networks, which are far from real time, which have chargeback risk, which have error rates and things like that. And I just question whether those are good enough for the modern economy. I mean, there's a reason when Chairman Chris Giancarlo...
When XRP was created, this actually was created before Ripple existed. The creators of XRP decided there'd be 100 billion units because they saw it as rather than having a smaller number with a very high price, they saw it as something they wanted to be effectively a global reserve currency.
This is the beginning of the greatest economic cycle this country has had since World War II. And I knew the things that Donald would do, and he hasn't even got started. But this is the eye of the motherfucking storm, the perfect storm. It ain't never going to get any better. Never. This is perfect for the QLA model. If I could have written a prescription or a formula, I couldn't have written it any better. Low interest rates, money's free, you stupid. Massive chaos. And Donald's going to rip the mother economy apart. And he's going to for practice in a good way. This is it. It ain't never going to get anything better. This is like a multiple orgasm the rest of your life, you fucking slags that are in the audience. This is it.
Sometimes I don't want to hear what Dan has to tell me. But as I wrote in one of my blogs, the old man, he's always right. Because he's telling you what you don't want to hear about yourself, but what you know is true. And that is, you're not stepping yourself up. You're not stepping your game up. And you get caught up in fear. As Dan says, false expectations appearing real.